stand it.
No, no.
Good evening, everybody. It is Thursday at 6 p.m., time for Thursday Talks. And Pitranomics is the 10-part strategy to grow, protect, and transfer wealth. And today we're going to talk about what is being left behind. So here's the thing. Everybody thinks about, man, I want to have a lot of money. Or, man, I have a lot of stuff. I want to have a lot of stuff. I want more stuff. But what do you do with all of it when you're at the end of your life and you realize, I have a lot of it, but nobody's really valuing it? What am I doing with it? What is my plan to pass it on? So today we're going to talk about what are you leaving behind? And now I think today is going to be a little bit smoother with sharing my screen. Let's see. There it is. Look, it's all big and everything. So let's take a minute to just glance, look around at all the stuff. Does anybody, just raise your hand, know anyone that lives like this, has a family member that lives like this? Whenever you go to their house, you see them, but you see more stuff. Just stuff is everywhere. They might have a system, they don't want you to touch it, and it's really hard to say anything because it's their house. But here's the thing. We're going to skip past this part today. Imagine that's all your stuff and you die. Is that what you want your loved ones to have to deal with in the midst of grief? So I have some experience with this. I do. One of my mother's friends passed away suddenly. It was very, very unexpected. And she had been out of town. Actually, she'd been out of town with us. And we went back to her house, and it was a lot like this. She had many treasures. So here's how that looks. There's not one person that comes in and sifts very carefully and takes out the treasures and sets them aside and treats them all lovingly. No, because the people that are grieving for you, they're emotionally distraught, but they're still burdened with everything in life. So they come in and they just start tossing stuff. All that stuff that you've kept to yourself, they just toss it. All of the things that you wanted to go to a special person, unless your instructions are somewhere where it's easily found, they don't get followed. So I saw that, Awilda, you said, yes, unfortunately, you have some experience with that. So we're not going to focus on the financial assets today because there's a lot of experience with that. You write your will, you state your wishes, and blah, blah, blah. The only way we're going to touch on that is if you have a will, where is it? Who knows where it is? How do they get to it? Does anyone in your family know, your loved ones know? What's the proper process of probating a will? So what do you do with that piece of paper? Most people don't even know that. And the fighting over assets and money starts almost as soon as the person takes their last breath. When my grandmother died, that's kind of how it was. I mean, it seems to be that much of grief before there's squabbling over what little that woman had left. Put a bad taste in my mouth. So I have my personal view about what I want done with my stuff and my body, share it with it later. But let's talk about leaving more behind than financial assets. There's media, pictures, videos, and all that. For example, I have some wonderful videos of my kids when they were growing up, the little babies. And we took it on this, 8mm camera? How many people have an 8mm camera anymore? How can they look at that? So years ago, I thought I was being really cool and I had them all put on CDs. But guess what? We're not looking at CDs anymore either. So who still has a CD player? You got to keep up with that. And I tried to just attach a disc player to my computer and watch it, and it didn't work. I tried to upload it to a drive. So now I have to go through digitizing it to more recent technology so that I want them to have those things. How are they going to have it? If it were those 8 millimeter films, what would they do with it? Maybe go to a garage sale and find an 8 millimeter camera that still works? Could be fun. Don't think my kids are doing it. Family heirlooms. So maybe not everybody does, but I would say most people have some valuable pieces. Maybe it's a painting or a ring or a book, something that's valuable. What do you do with it? Who gets it? Who takes care of it? If it's something to be shared for the family, what are you doing with it? Journals and diaries are also very valuable to loved ones when you're gone. I don't have a lot of written diaries. Pitranomics is my diary that I'm leaving behind. And I hope my kids go to look at it when I'm gone. And I hope the technology to look at it is still current by the time that's left behind. I also have from my mother, for example, birthday cards. She wasn't really about writing a lot, but I get to look at her handwriting. She always called me things like Pumpkinhead, and it warms my heart to see a token that my mother touched a long time ago that was filled with love for me. But what if I didn't know where it was? How is it something that values is a value to me if I don't know where it is? Let's go next to religious family artifacts. I know that on my mother's side, on my father's side too, there's some Bible somewhere that has all the births and deaths and marriages and whatnot going back many generations. I have no idea where these things are. I don't know what happened to them when my great aunt passed away. I know she had it at one time, my great aunt on my mother's side. I don't know where it is. I don't know who took it. I don't know if it got thrown away. These things weren't detailed, and it's very sad. So I try not to dwell on it. And then the final thing is genealogical information. So in things like the family Bible, um, there are those records and notices that go back. Now, here's the funny thing with DNA, sometimes the historical records don't match the DNA, but that's okay. We're talking about the artifact, not the truth. We're talking about something that has meaning in and of itself. It would be nice. I remember last laying eyes on my father's side Bible back when I was 16, and I'm almost 60, so who knows where that is. And then the last time I saw my mother's side Bible was probably in the early 90s, maybe even late 80s. So again, a long time ago. I don't know where these things are. So let's talk about how do you digitize your personal media? I had wanted to share photos of what my storage looks like. So who here has just a bunch of pictures stuffed willy-nilly in some cabinet or containers? I got to raise both hands on that because I bought a piece of furniture to put all the pictures in, and they're all in there, but they're not organized. Not at all. They're dusty. I do have a wedding album, but I didn't even make that. Thank goodness I had a good friend that did. So I have something I can look at to kind of go through my wedding day. And I have a baby book for each of my kids, except for my daughter's baby book has disintegrated. So I have to buy another one to put the pictures in. So now I have a baby book for my son and a baby stash for my daughter. Got to put that up. My mother-in-law is really good at adding stories and names and dates. I have not been. So when I'm going through these pictures with my family, it's more like, I think that was such and such a time. Well, maybe I should take the time to speak with my husband and speak with my kids and organize all those and label them so that when we're gone, our kids know what the heck that is that was there. You know, there are a couple of things I've looked at that are from when my parents were young. I have no idea who those people are. And that's really sad. I mean, that's just grandparent, great aunt. I don't know, just two generations back. And if you have digitized media, you have to back it up. So I have several copies of those. Well, no, not several. I have two copies of those discs, but they're both in the same place. So I'm not sure I'm getting what I need to do. But in any case, those discs of my kids with my children as babies and my son lifting his head and my daughter's, I think I have some of her steps. We started using those, I think, when she was about 1 year old. So she was already walking. Anyway, I'd like to look at them, but I don't have the apparatus. Maybe I buy a CD player. But back them up regularly. People know where the backup is. So again, they can look at it and invest in quality screening equipment. For those of us that use our phone, these are excellent, excellent cameras. But just as a grin, I would like for you guys to look at your camera roll, okay? Just real quick, just look at it and tell me, how many photos do you have? Can you guys put that in the chat? How many photos do you have in your camera roll? All photos. Oh, wow. Okay. I hope I'm not the person that has the most, but everybody just put in the chat. I'm going to as well. How many photos are on your cameras? Uh, let's see. Oh my gosh. So that's my number. 29,948 photos. And when I scroll through them quickly, most of them are of houses. So I've got to go in and organize the ones of my kids. Thankfully, there are those apps that, separate out the faces. And so you every once in a while get these videos of, a particular person. So the history of what's in your screen, save those videos maybe. That's the best thing to a photo album. Save them and put them somewhere. But I've got way too many photos and definitely more houses than people. So when I say invest in quality scanning equipment, I'm talking about the old photos. And right now, most of your decent printers will do that, but who has time to go back 30, 40 years worth of pictures? So find those people that will take your stack and then quickly turn them into digital media. It's up to you then to organize, but it's much easier to organize when they're all digital than to go through your pictures and say, oh my God, that was grandmother, let me scan that. And you're off talking about grandmother and you're not scanning anymore. Because I do that all the time. I'm bad like that. And then protect against the technological obsolescence. That's when I was talking about just the years millimeter camera. And in 20, that thing is completely obsolete. I have a lot of photos, but they're all in these boxes. How do you look at them? They have no dates. I love the digital date stamps on cameras, and you can tell where it was taken. But for the stuff you want to maintain, protect it against you're not even being able to look at it by keeping your albums, your pictures, your files consistent with the most recent technology. The important stuff, not every single thing. I have one picture that's very important to me. It's a picture of me and my mom and dad. The reason I love it, oh my God, the 70s hideousness of the clothes and the styles. I have that in a prominent place in my home, and I look at that every once in a while. I was like, to me, it's funny, it's nostalgic. I feel love when I see it, but it's a reminder some styles need not come back. So the 70s, let them stay, and most of the 80s, especially that neon stuff I used to wear after Madonna. Okay. So your family heirlooms. Let's say you have, let's say the asset that you have is, say, a first edition book by, I don't know, Zora Neale Hurston. I don't know. She's an author I really like, but let's say you have that. But let's say it's in the box under the bed with some old letter jackets and everything. And so if you pass and you don't leave any documentation as to what it is, unless that person is familiar with the history of the asset, they don't know what it is. And you want to store it properly. Let's say you have that first edition book, and the memory that you have is that your grandmother used to read it to you, or your mother used to read it to you. Well, store it properly, because books that get older, they become fragile. So preserve them and store them and make sure the people that are entrusted with these items know how to take care of them. When you start handling an old book, and what do a lot of us do when we start looking at books and we turn pages, we do, and that's one of the worst things, or we let that book just lay flat on its spine. That's terrible. You have to know how to take care of it. Maybe it's jewelry. Maybe it's an old watch that is, I know some people have really old watches that need to be moved every once in a while so they still work. And the fine art of repairing watches, it's disappearing. So if you want that watch to still be good, as well as an heirloom that's got the history, you have to know how to take care of it. Those are just two things I've mentioned. I'm sure other people have other things. Maybe it's an old car. I've often wondered when you have, say, like, I don't know, a 62 uh Camaro. Did they have Camaros then? 62 Mustang. Who's taking care of that? Who's making sure it's covered properly? I have a friend that has a 70s Charger. It's garaged at her dad's house. And I have great memories of back in the 80s when we used to roam in that car and it was really fast. But she has the car, but who knows how to work on it? And it was cherry red. Who knows how to restore it? Those lost arts are disappearing so fast. So if you want to keep something in great condition, know how to take care of it, know who can help you take care of it, store it properly, show it care. This is something I wish I had. I wish I had journals from my mom, but she didn't really do that much. But I do have a tape. I have a cassette tape of my mother talking. She was talking about what it meant to face cancer. And I don't listen to it often because if I break it, it will be one of the only things I have with her voice on it. And so I listen to it infrequently, but I want a reminder of her voice. At some point, I will take it somewhere where I can get it digitized so I can hear it all the time. But right now, it's like, oof, I don't want to play it too often. It's the only thing I have left. Before my mother died, before my grandmother and my great aunt died, my mother recorded hours of them talking about their life stories on reel to reel tape. Now, I don't know how many of you have ever seen that, let alone had the machine in your house, but we had that. It recorded reel to reel. My mother passed away. My father remarried, and they threw out the tapes. And I have no idea where all the pictures are from my childhood, but I've asked my father for them. He said they've become damaged by the heat or being, I don't know. I don't want to think about it, but if you want it for your children and you want to start that preservation of diaries now, do it. Write the things, care for your diaries in the right box. If they're digital diaries, back them up. If they're written diaries, put them away so they don't get moist or degrade. Take them out once in a while, reflect and review, share the memories, share something important. I used to actually look at my daughter's diaries, and I haven't done it in a while, but and I know she loves that I do that. But sometimes if I look at them and I remember what she felt about me when she was 13 or 12 or 8, she would have sold me downriver. But I like looking at the things and I like laughing about them with her. My son wasn't as much of a diary writer, but he has other things that sort of were clues to his state of mind. I am not the best diary writer. I try, it just doesn't work for me. I'll do it for about a week, but I tried this right here. I talk about them. I share my love for them. I talk about the things that mean something to me. This is part of my leaving more behind than financial assets from my kids. This isn't really something I speak too much to, or I can speak too much toward because I don't have family artifacts that are religious in nature. We didn't wear crosses. We don't have a lot of that. But if you do, if you have a family cross, if you have, I can't think of I can't think of it. If you're Jewish, you have the candelabra thing. If you have them passed down from generations, well, then take care of them, preserve them, make sure the significance of the artifact is not lost, make sure it's documented, and don't put it in a box somewhere. Incorporate it in your family traditions. Use it as a time to come together and facilitate education about the item, and then make sure someone responsible and knowledgeable is the custodian of that artifact. Because nothing is worse than maybe having this beautiful, memorable thing about your family and somebody who is not taking care of it breaks it or loses it. And then you're heartbroken. So let's try not to do that. Other things that people might have, paintings, jewelry. I can't think of anything else offhand, but I have some of my mother's jewelry. I have some of my grandmother's jewelry. And I thought one day, why don't I just combine this into one major thing? And I haven't done it. And I don't have a lot because it's not like we were the Rockefellers. But I have some things. I can't wear my mother's rings because her hands were too small. I have some of her vintage clothing that's beautiful, but I couldn't get into her dresses even as a teenager because her waist was too small. She was tiny. I don't want to sell those things. So what do I do with them? They're in a closet. And by the time I pass, my kids probably won't understand the significance. So something I saw on the movie Scandal one time was that Olivia Pope had to go into the president's closet and pick out a dress for the first lady. And all of the clothes were hung beautifully and tagged with when they were worn and what was the purpose or whatever. You know, if you have one or two artifacts like that, tag it, put something on it, write a story about it, write maybe one-page journal item, put it in something substantial and hang it around so you know what that was. And imagine the heartbreak I had that I carried both my wedding dress and my mother's wedding dress across several countries. I had had them both boxed, and one day I wanted to open them and they're pretty much ruined. I don't know how to take care of it. Michelle, you mentioned china and silverware, and that's a great thing. I have my mother's china, but I never use it. It's beautiful, but it can't be put in the dishwasher. So every time that you use it, you have to wash it by hand. You can't microwave on it. You can't put it in the dishwasher. It's very fragile, so it doesn't get used. And maybe what I'll do, maybe I'll put this out there. For my son's graduation from college, I'll make a dinner. We'll use the china. And then maybe what I'll do is let somebody else treasure it. Okay, I've got a correction from Jimmy. 1964 was the first year of the Ford Mustang. Are you sure you're right about that? Maybe, maybe. I'm sure Jimmy is correct on that. But I do know that for me, I wanted a 69 Mustang when I was in high school. I did get a Mustang. I got a 1980 Mustang because my father didn't think I would take care of a vintage car properly. And he especially didn't want me in a muscle car like that, which is probably for the best because my 80 Mustang lasted all of 8 months before it was totaled in a car accident. Um, there you go. But let's think about that. I know a family, they have, I want to say it's like a 1930s little BMW car that's stored very well in the garage. It goes out on certain days. He takes the car out and he rides his grandkids in it. And the grandkids are the ages of my kids, so they're probably close to making him a great grandfather. Imagine pictures or memories of being able to ride with your great grandfather in this car, this BMW that he brought over from Germany. I mean, I think that's kind of cool. I don't have a lot of those stories, but if you have them, preserve them so they don't disappear with you. And then we need to streamline what we leave behind. If we go back to that picture, and I'm guilty of it too. I'm not saying that I do this perfectly, but man, there's so much stuff that we keep and stuff we never use. stuff that has more dust than mass. It's crazy. So when you get to that certain age, and I think I'm long past that certain age, start to declutter. Um, there's one rule I heard about clothing, you know, map out a section in your closet and every day for a year, put the clothes that you've worn into that section. And after the year, everything else out, you just get rid of. Unless it's some special item, like maybe you wear a fur only when it's before below 30 degrees and it doesn't get cold that often, something like that, I can see keeping. If I were to do that, probably lose like 1/30th of my clothes because I would tend to wear the same thing over and over and over again. Not to mention, I don't know if any other woman has this issue, but my sizes tend to vary over the years. So I have things from vastly different sizes of what I am now. I know I'm not wearing those, but just in case I get back down to that weight. Yeah, whatever. So anyway, learn to declutter and learn to optimize what you have. And the example I have for optimization, let's talk about your kitchen and every single gadget that you have in there. Um, I have a lot of gadgets, not only that I haven't used in a year, that I've probably not used in 10. And I just looked the other day, I had this, it looks like an apple slicer, but it's huge. It's for slicing watermelon. And I never use that thing. By the time I remember it's there, I've already cut the watermelon and it takes up so much space in the drawer. That's something to optimize. Maybe instead of having that thing, I have, I don't know, flexible cutting boards or something like that. Start going through your items and determining what you actually use. And then here's the thing, if you do have things that you use or that you want to use, make sure they're organized in a place so you know where they are. And that's my big thing. I think the other day I was looking for, what was I looking for? I was looking for, I can't remember what it was. I can't remember what it was, and I know I couldn't find it at the time I needed it. And so I was like, oh, I gotta find that. And I haven't found it. Now I've forgotten what it was. So I won't know to look for it until the next time I need it. Organize your space, especially the kitchen, because you don't need to, when you get older, you don't need to have a whole bunch of stuff you don't know how to use anymore. Keep it simple so you know how to keep cooking in your kitchen. And whatever you have, communicate to the people around it. So a funny thing, I have an immersion blender and I didn't use it that often. And my son, who whenever he uses it a lot, was, hey, no, you can't have it. He's like, well, I never see it. I was like, that make myself use it. But it's a really cool, absolutely unnecessary if you're not going to be blending something and immersing it in the substance. So it's good for gravies. It's good for protein drinks. It's good for sauces. But most of the time when I'm actually making those things, I'm using a wire whisk with lots of vigorous action. And then whatever you're not using, here's a hack I heard. Take a picture of it. Maybe take a picture of you using it. Put that in an album somewhere. Let the item itself bless somebody else. Because maybe there's someone who would be blessed by this item that you're not using. I love to go garage sale shopping. My house is filled with other people's treasures and some of my own. It's time to let those bless other people or, throw them away. So let's think about making things a little less cluttered, a little less hoarder house, like the picture we saw in the beginning. And then in honor of the people that have helped make Pitranomics possible, this is my mom on her wedding day in the wedding dress she sewed. I love that she did that. And I actually have a memory of her sewing my 10th grade homecoming dress. We sewed that together. It was the last thing I've ever made. And it had this blue silky type of material with lace. I look at the pictures now, it's absolutely hideous, but I loved it back in 1979, 80, whenever that was. And I was very pleased that I had made it with my mom. And then over here, this is my husband's family. This is my father-in-law, Pavel, may he rest in peace, my sweet mother-in-law hiding behind my brother-in-law. And look at this sweet baby that is my husband. So all of the things that I have encapsulated into Pitranomics, try to make it as easy to digest as possible. Most of those teachings and values and thoughts come from the people you see on these pictures. So thank you for letting me share about this. I believe it's really, really important that if you have something of value and you want to send it to another generation, you have some care that you must give. You must communicate what it is, what its purpose, what its history is. You must talk to the people about the care and how it can be used in your family to retain the meaning. And you have to appoint someone, not just the family, but someone that you know is going to take care of it, teach them how to do it, and trust that responsibility. They have to do the same thing: educate, teach, and entrust. So with all that, I would love to hear about anyone else's stories about the stuff that they have, the stuff they'd like to share with someone else, the stuff you'd want to preserve for your kids, or maybe put in the museum somewhere if you have that kind of valuable stuff. So come on, tell me some stuff, share with me. Hello, who's all out there?
So I hope that my grandmother doesn't kill me for this, but I am the oldest grandchild, and I'm birthed by the oldest child of my maternal grandmother. So we have this running joke about my grandmother's belt. So for
Your
those who
grandmother's what?
her belt,
Her belts. Okay.
punishment thing. So she has an infamous belt that has been around since, my aunts and uncles or since my mother, was a child. And no matter how grown we get, we all fear the belt.
Okay.
So, but the running joke is who gets the belt when she's gone. So I just feel like it's gonna be me because I'm the oldest grandchild. But it's just funny because we all kind of joke about it, even though it's like nobody ever, ever wants her to pass or go away. But it's just like that's kind of our running joke about, who's gonna get the belt when, who gets the power of the belt. Because all
The power of the belt.
yeah, everyone fears the belt. So I don't, and we haven't, come to that conclusion. I still say it's going to be me just because I'm the oldest, and why not? Because I'm the oldest. But it's just a funny thing to want to have as an heirloom, or something that you pass down, or whatever the case may be. It's funny to us, but at the end of the day, it is something that's special because it holds so many memories that probably weren't great at the time when they were happening, but something that you can laugh about later on, like, man, she got me good with that belt. So it's not, it's probably not expensive, but it's priceless. It's just one of
Right.
those things where it's like it holds a lot of memory, and something that you probably cried about back then but laugh about today. And that's just one of those things is one of us is going to get that belt in a good way this time, not in a bad way.
And I think it's a beautiful story. Maybe you and your family could talk about it and record that conversation and make a ceremony out of the passing of the belt.
Absolutely.
And then tell the kids, like, okay, this can still be used. Is it a leather belt?
It is.
Okay, keep that leather supple because you might have to use it on some young generation's hind parts. Well, I thank you for sharing that with me. I think and with us. I think that's pretty cool. Anyone else have a what you're leaving behind story to share? And Jimmy wrote, I love the belt story shared by Shamir. Anyone else have those parents that didn't just use belts though? They use whatever was close. I'm pretty sure there's a fly swatter that needs to be immoralized because I got that one.
House
Or
shoes.
a house shoe.
House
A house
shoes.
shoe. Yeah.
House shoes. Oh gosh. Yeah. I remember a day when I did something bad. I mean, I shouldn't have done it. And my mother spanked my bottom. No, she didn't spank my bottom. She beat me. And you know how most of our mothers would say, this is hurting me a lot more than it's hurting you? Yeah, she said, no, I am so angry with you. I want to hurt your behind. And she spanked me until she got tired. And then was like, and then my father tapped in, gave her a break, and then she hopped back in. And I'm thankful for that. And you know what? That's a story I share with or have shared with my kids because I was headed down the wrong path. And when they used to say to me, "Oh, we don't believe we should be spanked," da, 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 I was a corporal punishment mom. I believe there's certain things you want to strongly deter your kids from doing. I am thankful for that deterrence that my parents gave me. And I was 16 years old and I was so full of myself. So I'm thankful for that. I'm pretty sure my kids weren't thankful at the time, but those are things to share. Make sure you tell these stories. Better write them down and record them, but there you go. Uh-oh, Jimmy wrote, I was disciplined by both parents for the same offense. Okay, Jimmy, what'd you do? What'd you do? I guess you're not sharing that story, huh? You hurt your brother. Okay. Did you deserve the punishment? You hurt your brother. Because I think, Jimmy, you're the oldest, right? Yeah. Okay. Good. He admits that he hurt his brother and he deserved the punishment. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Anyone else have some memories they'd like to share? Because it's going to be here on the Pitranomics video. So maybe you pass this video to someone that you love. No? No one else wants to come off a story? Wilda, are you trying to talk? Because you're muted. No, you're not trying
No,
to
you said come off of a story like you need to cough it up.
cough it
I
up.
don't have a story as good as Shamir's, but I think I've been unofficially designated as like the holder of heirlooms. So I have like some Bibles. I have all of the old pictures and photo albums. I have like obituaries and stuff like that. And I just put it all in a like a chest.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I put it in the chest because I don't want to start keeping too many things. Because I don't want it to be looking like that house you posted. But so I have a little chest, and there are different.
Wilda said she doesn't want it looking like that house I posted. Okay.
So like I've restricted myself to this chest only, and we won't go outside of the chest. But I have some things. But really it's I think the probably the most valuable things are pictures. We did have a fire back in the 90s, and so a lot of pictures were destroyed in the fire. So we probably had about 6 photo albums. I think I only have like 1 or 2 based on what we could save from the fire. So those are probably like the most valuable things. A lot of the pictures that got destroyed were of my sister when she was a baby. And so she's a little sad because there's not a lot of pictures of her when she was a baby because they got destroyed in the fire. But I have maybe like 5 or 6 that she can at least share with her daughter.
Okay, I like that. That's beautiful. So you have some, and pictures from your childhood are valuable. I have a picture from I think my son might have been 2 and my daughter 3. It was a not Thanksgiving, Halloween. And I decided I was going to make their costumes. And I got them these little red shirts and pants. And they put makeup on their face and these wigs that we spray painted with all this color. And I made a little thing that said thing 1 and thing 2. And my husband had, I believe, a cat in the hat, Dr. Zeus hat. Drew a little mustache on him. Oh my God, we look so cheesy, but it's one of my favorite pictures. We look like a family. And sometimes the family stuff is cheesy, but it's a memory that makes you smile. Preserve your memory, preserve your lessons, preserve your artifacts, share your rituals. Don't wait until sometime later. I'm horrible at any kind of sentiment or rituals. I know my kids would probably love it if I would decorate, but we're going to have to hire that out because I don't know how to do that. But we do have a few decorations that mean a lot. And when I look at them, I smile. But the actual putting it out there, I'm glad my husband and my daughter and my son get into that, even though I like looking at the decorations and the things my kids have drawn with their talented little selves. So preserve those things. This is one of those nights where it's not going to go over for Pitranomics. I'm always fine with ending early as long as everybody gets left with the one thing. When you pass, the people that love you aren't going to grieve your money. They're going to want memories of you and tokens of you. So make sure they know where to get them. And make sure you know to whom you wish to leave what. So maybe it's the necklace with the pearl for your youngest daughter because she has memories of you with that pearl. I'm just saying. Or maybe there's a coat. I remember there's a picture of my daughter for her first daddy-daughter dance, and I put her in my mother's coat that actually had no sleeves. It was like a cape with a belt, and it was way too big for her. But there's a picture of her in my mother's cape, and when my mother used to wear it, she thought she was a little something. I love that picture. Thankfully, we have a digital picture of it. It's actually, I believe, on Facebook. So preserve those things, share them with your loved ones so that they have those things once you're gone. And Jimmy wrote on the lighter side, my mom had a photo in a lovely blue coat. It was her favorite shade of blue. Thanks to this, I'll digitize that photo. Thank you, Julie. Thank you. Hope you guys have time to your love, memories, and mementos that you have. Jewelry, maybe books, paintings, pictures, recordings, save them, put them in a safe place, and trust somebody with them. Pass your love on, not just your money, to the next generation.
Can I
So
say
thank you.
something real quick before you
Oh, sure.
end?
Oh, sure.
And I'm all for passing the love on and not putting too much of a monetary stamp on things. But sometimes we have things that are very valuable and we don't know that they're valuable. And so because of what I do as a profession, I would only like to encourage people that if you think you have something that is worth something, get it appraised or have somebody look at it and give you the history on it, because you may be just tossing a very valuable artifact into the trash can thinking that you no longer need it. That's it.
And insure it.
Yes. Sure.
Since that is your profession. Everybody that didn't know, that's Michelle Hambrick, and she does insurance and she's awesome. You know. So Christy, I love this discussion topic. Definitely an item that I would like to be, definitely an item I would like to be one that encourages my family to actively participate in or engage in. Thank you, Christy. I appreciate it. Jimmy, thanks for saying excellent advice. You guys, if there's one thing you can do, maybe even tonight, share 5 minutes of your wisdom, of your experience, of your thoughts. Put it somewhere, maybe even send it to your kids and put it somewhere just in case they don't keep it handy, they can get it later. because that one tape that I have of my mother is so precious, and I would have liked to have had more. So thank you for sharing my journey, sharing with what I'm leaving behind from my family, and I'll see you all next week. We've run through all the 10 strategies for this quarter, so we're going to have kind of a case study. We'll put them to work. So I'm looking forward to an interactive session. You guys have a great week. Enjoy the first day of spring here in Texas. It's rainy and very unspring-like. And I will see you guys soon. Mwah. And thank you for joining me.